Huge week. Massive, massive, massive week. The markets seem to be in peril, but they're rebounding. Is it a dead cat? Or is this for real? Is it a bull market? Or is it a bear market? Do we go to cash or do we start to invest? Who knows? I'll tell you who knows. Dan Nathan, Guy Adami, Danny Moses. They're going to join us on Breaking Even as they do every week to help us understand exactly what we're supposed to do in the markets. And if you want to lay a few dollars down on some of the football this weekend, you can do that because Jonathan Coachman is going to tell you where to put your money. He's been right all throughout the playoffs, so you better pay attention. And as we do at the beginning of every episode here on Breaking Even, we're going to talk some golf. And I'm joined by my man, Barney Alary. Barney, how we doing?
I'm doing great, Ned. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm excited for this week on the PGA Tour because it's the first week here at the Farmers Insurance Open in San Diego. It's the first week that we actually have rough on the golf course. That is impactful. That matters. We're going to discuss everything that's going to happen potentially at the Farmers Insurance Open. We're also going to look back, though, because the European Tour is getting its season in earnest underway. And it's one of my favorite times of the year when the European Tour is in the Middle East. They played Abu Dhabi last week. It's just a neat stretch. Meanwhile, on the PGA Tour, they're in the desert as well, the desert of California, of course, where we saw Hudson Swafford for the second time in La Quinta hoist a trophy. So let's start there. Let's tip our cap to Hudson Swafford just for a couple minutes, just dissect what happened, and then look ahead here to Torrey Pines.
Hudson Swafford played golf at the University of Georgia. He is a big, tall, strong young man. And a lot of people thought that this young man was going to wind up being great. And you know what? He just might be. Because now this is his third win, and evidently he feels extremely comfortable out there and does well. And he played great. He shot 8 under par in the final round, and he wins by 2. But Ned, inevitably, every golf tournament that's ever going to be played, there's always going to be at least a few people that are going to be sitting back there thinking, gosh, darn it, did I let this one slip right out of my hands? And number one on my list about who let that thing slip right out of their hands is Patrick Cantley. For those who don't know or don't remember, he was 10 under par through 13 holes on Thursday. And I'm sitting there going that, especially again with all the scoring records that's been going on already, I'm sitting there going, don't tell me this guy's going to get to 30, 35, or 40 under. But sure enough, he got a bunch of his birdies early in on Thursday because after that, the only thing that he could do was to play the remaining 59 holes in 8 under and finish it quite a bit far back from Hudson Swafford. But congratulations, Hudson Swafford and Patrick Cantley. Better luck next time.
I might have had a fighting interest for Patrick Cantley, considering I picked him to win. And I had picked Hideki Matsuyama last week. So I was thinking, Ned Stradamus here.
No way you're going to go 2 for 2.
Listen, Hudson Swafford, super nice guy. And there's always this, you see your friends play well and you're inspired. You'll see a Spaniard play well, and then 3 weeks in a row, Spaniards are winning somewhere around the world. When you know somebody who wins, you say, wait, I know that guy. I played a bunch of golf with him. If he's winning, I can win. I don't think there's any surprise here. Georgia wins the national championship in football, beats Alabama. Watch out for the Georgia Bulldogs. I know that sounds stupid, but for this week, keep an eye on Keith Mitchell, for example, something along those lines. Just going to throw that out there. Also, whenever I think of Hudson Swafford, Barn, I cannot get the image of back when it was the Nationwide Tour, I think, and now the Korn Ferry Tour. He's playing in, I believe it was Ohio, and he's taking a practice swing, and he takes a divot, and the divot rolls into the ball and hits the ball and moves the ball. If you haven't seen it, just Google Hudson Swafford divot. Every time I see him take a practice swing, I'm on edge. Congratulations to Hudson Swafford. A really nice win. And remember, it was just last year, Barn. He was playing on a medical exemption, and he won a tournament. But congratulations to him. Really has now established himself as a fixture on the PGA Tour. Let's look ahead to one of my favorite weeks on tour, the week at Torrey Pines, the Farmers Insurance Open. Barn, the last time we were here, we were giving away the United States Open trophy to John Rahm. Now, of course, that was 4 days all on the South Course, the imposing 7,700 plus yards South Course, longest course on the PGA Tour, by the way. A lot of rough, small greens. The fairways are super narrow. And then over on the North Course, which doesn't get a whole lot of love. It's been redesigned by Tom Weisskopf just a couple of years ago. Narrow fairways over there. Matter of fact, always in the top 5 most difficult fairways to hit on the tour, but guys still go low. So it's this combination of you've got a really hard golf course, and then you've got one that the average guy would find very difficult, but the tour players are able to dominate it. So you look at guys who play well here, and Jon Rahm has to be at the top of your list of players to pick. He's won here back in 2017 as the Farmers Insurance Open. He is the reigning United States Open champion, and you'll remember those 2 beautiful putts that he holed on 17 and 18. First man to birdie 17 and 18 on Sunday to win the United States Open since Tom Watson at Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach in 1982.
So he's got to be at the top of everybody's list. He's not who I would pick this week necessarily, but I think he will have a good tournament. I think he always plays pretty well out here, running in on 3 consecutive top 10s at this event. But Barney, it's just a wonderful tournament. The scenery, the paragliders, La Jolla just down the coast. For many people, it signifies the real start of this year on the PGA Tour.
Well, picking Jon Rahm is easily the lowest hanging fruit of a pick. He's number 1 in the world. It's the location of his first win. Again, like you said, he wins the U.S. Open there last year. However, there's only been one Tiger Woods, because when Tiger Woods found a golf course that he liked, such as Torrey Pines, such as Bay Hill, such as Firestone, he built himself a Hall of Fame career on just those 3 golf courses. That's just purely off the top of my head. So the idea that Jon Rahm is going to win every single time at Torrey Pines, no. Not so fast. Although, again, it's the easiest pick in the world. So, Ned, that's why I'm going to pick a guy that I think has a game similar to Jon Rahm. My pick for the week is going to be Sam Burns.
Really? Great player, no doubt. You're going to pick Sam Burns. Okay.
Hits it a long way. And I'll tell you what, 2021 was a nice emergence of Sam Burns. 2022, I think his stock is rising.
A couple of picks. I'm going to save one of them. The man is 10,000 to 1. He has won here a couple of times, but I won't tell you because Jonathan Coachman and I discussed this. You have to wait till the segment with Coach, which is coming up next. We also discussed Tony Finau. I like Tony Finau here. He's 7-7 in cuts made, and 4 of the last 6 times he's played in this event here at Torrey Pines, he is tied 6th or better. There's this correlation of players who have played well prior to this event at this course and then go on to win. Another thing to look at if you're making selections is guys who have last year performed well on technical old school golf courses. And there's this great correlation. I won't bore you with all the details of players who have played well at places like Colonial, even like Memphis, TPC Southwind, old school technical golf courses, Pebble Beach, and of course here at Torrey Pines. They tend to play well the following year. So I have to go look at Sam Burns. He did win at a very technical golf course. It's a good point, Barn. Maybe your Sam Burns is coming out of the dark. Hey, there's a lot going on this week. I do want to go back to speaking of Jon Rahm before we move on to intercontinental ballistic missiles and Netflix series. What'd you make of Jon Rahm's comments as he's walking off one of the greens out in the desert of California at the American Express? He says, and I won't quote him exactly, but basically, this is a putting contest. I'm paraphrasing. It's an absolute joke that we are playing this tournament. This is not a proper tournament. I'm reading between the lines of what he said. There was curse words, but he wasn't happy.
He was caught on camera, and he's walking through the gallery from one green to go to the next tee box, and he is very upset. And the sort of thing that we all absolutely thought that he had gotten past, just having a moment of temporary insanity. But no, unfortunately, evidently, that's still in there in him. So I wish him a lot of growth going forward.
Wasn't really a tirade. Had his head down. He was writing a score on a scorecard, and he just was thinking out loud.
Ned, he's talking loud enough for others to hear. If that's a private conversation in his car with his caddy, that's one thing. But to say it loud enough and then have expletives going off with it, you are the current U.S. Open champion. You're the number 1 player in the world. Let me put you this way. I've never seen Arnold Palmer do anything like that, or Jack Nicklaus, and several dozen other guys. So be better, would you?
That's because they didn't have cell phones in their era, by the way. You may remember what we talked about last week. And I said, here's why Jon Rahm is not going to win the American Express Championship is because while he is putting well, I don't think he's putting well enough. He's burning a lot of edges, and he's going to do that this week, and he's going to get so frustrated that he's not going to be able to handle it. And Barney was right. because it's exactly what happened. It just wore him down. And he doubled down on it a little bit in his press conference this week, saying, listen, I just feel like we're the best players in the world. We should have rough. You should pay a fine, a penalty for not hitting good shots. And you shouldn't be rewarded for just missing fairways. There's no rough. It was a putting contest, and he wants to play hard, strong, testing golf courses. But Barney, let it get the better of him.
There's also a chance that he's still upset that he shot 34 under and didn't win.
There's still a chance. I don't disagree. It's a very good point. All right, so this week, the Netflix series is going to start. You have to Google the players who are involved, but everybody from Ricky Fowler to Justin Thomas. I'm interested to see how long before somebody just snaps and says, get the hell away from me. Because they're going to have cameras with them all the time. And I'm not talking about just while they're at tournaments. I'm talking about at home while they're doing club fittings, while they're at home eating breakfast and having coffee. I'm not sure that they know exactly what they've signed up for. But you look at folks who have done reality shows in the past, and Barney, some of them, it cracks their lives. So be careful what you ask for here. Everybody's doing it for publicity, for PR, for PIP money.
Ned, I don't know why you would sign up for anything like that. In the NFL, that Hard Knocks series, I don't know why you would sign up for something like that because, Ned, you need to have that private time. I understand the desire of getting behind the ropes. I get all that. But as a player, no. You've got to have that time where you can just unwind and get things off your chest in a very private setting, a little bit like John Rahm should have done. It'll be interesting to see because another one of my 1,001 expressions, golf is a darn hard game without getting upset. That's hard to do.
I don't know how to play golf without getting upset, Barn. That's part of the game.
It's hard to do. And so it'll be interesting to see how this thing develops.
Last week, the DP World Tour, Barn, made their way over to Abu Dhabi and now Dubai, one of the iconic stops on any tour anywhere in the world. And again, one of my favorite times of year when the European Tour is playing in the Middle East. Thomas Pieters hoists the trophy. And here's a guy, I just keep waiting. When's he going to just become a prolific winner, a top 10 player? And I've had the opportunity to do a couple of interviews with him over the years. I think he knows he can do it, but he puts so much pressure on himself that he has times where he literally just falls apart. And then it takes him 6 or 8 months to get everything back together. But nonetheless, a really nice win. Very trying conditions. A couple of days over there were so fun to watch. Wind was howling. McIlroy was having to hit shots. I think he came off just saying it was a physical and mental beatdown. I love it when they're over there. Totally a fun event to watch.
Well, for those who don't know, Thomas Pieters, if you could have a guy model and copy Adam Scott's swing, Thomas Pieters would be on that short list. But something else that happened in that week, and this is my shut your mouth for the week, is while they were out there in Abu Dhabi, they also had the Hero World Challenge. Tyrrell Hatton, Rory McIlroy, and Colin Morikawa have a little challenge of their own, and they built on this racetrack a 1 yard wide fairway and extended it 300 plus yards. And the idea was to see if any of those guys could hit a ball that could land in that little fairway and stay in the fairway. And I'm under the impression it took a while. But finally, congratulations to Tyrrell Hatton that actually pulled it off and squeezed a ball in a 1 yard wide fairway. But with all that talent and skill, evidently he was not able to do that on the 18th hole out there at Abu Dhabi because he makes a double bogey 7 on the 18th hole in the second round, follows it up in the third round with the quadruple bogey 9. Had he just made bogey each of the 2 days, he might have won by 1, but instead finishes tied for 6, 7 under par, 3 strokes behind said Thomas Pieters. That's another shut your mouth. You can hit a 1 yard fairway, but you make a double and a quad on this par 5.
And then he proceeded to absolutely mangle the hole in his press conferences. It was fantastic. He was so pissed that he couldn't get to this par 5 and 2. He could not handle the fact that we are tour players and the hole is over 600 yards. I've hit the fairway and I cannot get to the par 5 and 2. Just absolutely furious. Welcome to the world that most people play golf in, pal. Just got no sympathy on that at all.
Ned, for most people, they call that a par 4.
Right. Hey, did you see that this is getting absolutely no news? An intercontinental ballistic missile was intercepted over Abu Dhabi last week. And apparently pieces of it fell to the ground and some terrorist group or something claimed that it was their work. Barney, there was an intercontinental ballistic missile was intercepted while the European tour was in Abu Dhabi, and poof, no one's heard anything about it, really.
Everything you just said there is insane in so many levels and so many ways that it's just another one of those unbelievable things.
Fortunately, everybody was safe, and they get to move on to Dubai, which is, gosh, it's one of the neatest events, I think, to watch on television, and how the city continues to grow from this barren desert landscape to now this oasis in the middle of the UE is absolutely incredible. And when you get to the 8th tee, you have to take a picture. It's iconic, and it's tradition. Barn, what do you think we're going to see this week out of Dubai?
Well, we're not going to see any rain, I can tell you that. But again, the golf course is going to look spectacular, and it's going to be awesome.
Time for Rory McIlroy to hoist that trophy again. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he goes out there and just fleeces the place. He looks like he's swinging at it well, and I think last week in those tough conditions, he had to learn how to play golf again instead of golf swing. Remember at the end of last year, he was talking about, I just have to be me. Well, I think that's going to help him just be Rory McIlroy.
Ned, have we got one more minute for our new segment, Up and Down?
One more minute for a new segment. Barney is claiming up and down.
Up and down. So one player's up and one player's down. So going up, Ned, we had a Francisco Molinari sighting over there at the American Express. He finished 6th at 19 under. I thought he'd enter the witness protection program. And then another player up, Victor Dubuisson. Oh, my goodness.
The inspector.
Where have you been? And out of nowhere, finishes tied for 4th in Abu Dhabi at the HSBC out there. 2 shots out of first place. So all of a sudden, we got 2 players going up. Sadly and unfortunately, a fan favorite, he's still down. Ricky Fowler, official world golf rankings, 101st. He finishes about 15th from last at American Express. Ned had 3 doubles, had 1 double in each of the first 3 rounds. Followed that up with 8 bogeys for the week. Ned, that's 14 over for 11 holes, and that's the kind of stuff that makes you miss a cut by 9 shots. So up and down. Up was Molinari and Victor Dubuisson. Down, Ricky Fowler. Ricky, we're still waiting.
Ricky. Yep, he's going to be in our featured coverage this week on PGA Tour Live on ESPN+. It's going to have to be time to pull the ripcord pretty soon on swing changes for Ricky Fowler. Missing cuts by 9 shots. Definitely not in his repertoire of old. And Molinari, welcome back. Dubuisson, I thought he was still at Dove Mountain getting up and down out of the cacti with Jason Day in like 2015 or whatever year it was. He holed that putt on the 72nd hole this past week and gave it a massive fist pump because getting inside the top 5 is the first time we've seen him in a long, long time.
That's right.
All right, Barn, I think we got an exit stage left. As always, pal, appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week.
That's right, Ned. We'll see you next week. Have a great week.
You too. You looking for a vacation? Maybe somewhere you haven't been before, somewhere off the beaten path? Consider Mississippi. You can jump on their website, visitmississippi.org. They had the state fair going on just a couple of weeks ago. They had the PGA Tour in Jackson, Mississippi, the Sanderson Farms Championship. Cruising the Coast, the best automobile show in the country. Deion Sanders, Jackson State. They had 52,000 fans turn up last week at the Jackson State football game. There's so much to do in Mississippi. You can hit the coast. You can gamble a little bit, bet on the sports book, play golf. If you love music, the Grammy Museum. Just check it out. Visit Mississippi.org. Monster weekend in football last weekend. It was tears for the Titans fans. But whoa, the Kansas City Chiefs came alive in the last couple of minutes. Of course, the golf world, we're starting to get to the West Coast now. We were down in the California desert as we move our way up now to San Diego. When it comes to golf, it comes to football, any sports, when it comes to betting and figuring out where we need to put our money, we always bring in my guy, Jonathan Coachman. How we doing, Coach?
Oh, I'm doing great. What a weekend in golf. What a weekend in football. I could not wait to get back here with you this week to chop it up.
Well, there's a lot of odds that I want to get to for next weekend's football games, or I should say this weekend's football games, the golf tournament in San Diego, the Farmers Insurance Open. But first and foremost, as a Kansas City Chiefs fan, I want to know what the last 2 minutes of that football game were like for you.
Well, if anybody wants to see how it finished for me, then I posted a video on my Twitter account where my beautiful better half was taking a video that I was not aware of as the
Christmas
game
tree
was
and
finishing. All. Yeah, it's like everybody could. It was so fascinating that I still have my Christmas tree up. And I'm like, if you've ever been engaged or married to a black woman, whatever she wants to do, you're going to do. You're going to do.
I like her philosophy, by the way.
What's that?
Keep it up till February 1.
What?
Why not? It's a festive thing. It brings joy to your life. Then leave it up.
I didn't understand that literally probably over half of the tweets I got were about the damn Christmas tree. I'm like, what about the greatest game that ever was played just moments before? I swear to you, Ned, I'm not exaggerating. It's not hyperbole. I felt like I was having a heart attack because after everything that happened, they score a touchdown. And I'm like, oh, it's over. And I was screaming on 4th and 14. And we had just blitzed them 3 times in a row. Then all of a sudden, we back off into coverage, and I'm screaming at the TV, what are we doing? Touchdown. I knew it was coming. Touchdown. I told my kids. But then here we come right back.
That move, too. Oh, my goodness. The move that 14 or and then boom, fell down. Next thing you know, touchdown.
Gabriel Davis is going to be an absolute star.
He's a man.
He had a coming out party, didn't he? He had a coming out party. And then we already know the 2 studs on the other side, Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And both guys stepped up in the end of the game. Tyreek was almost stupid by doing the peace sign. That could have called the touchdown back. But then he scores that, and I still thought to myself, if we go into the prevent defense, it's over. But here's the biggest mistake that was made. After the Bills scored the touchdown with 13 seconds to go, you squib kick it. Because any play in the NFL that has action to it, a minimum of 2 seconds, has to go off the clock. It's a rule. And so that would have taken it down to 11 seconds. Then doing 2 plays in 11 seconds would have been very, very difficult. The other mistake they made, meaning the Bills, normally at the end of a game like that, Ned, you're playing to take the outside routes away. So you can't get out of bounds and stop the clock, right?
Right.
The problem was the Chiefs had 3 timeouts.
That's right.
So that didn't matter. So they left the lanes going right up the field. So the guys didn't even have to move. They could just run, get it, and get 17, 18 yards. And that's exactly what happened. 2 plays, 44 yards. And a tying field goal. That was the mistake. Everybody wants to cry about, overtime, only one team gets it. No, there were 60 minutes of decisions, of mistakes, and ultimately the Chiefs, one of the great wins of all time.
One of the great games of all time. Maybe the game of our generation.
No doubt.
That I fully remember. You know, it was interesting because as you're watching the game, it was one of those, and they kept saying on the broadcast, by the way, Nance and Romo did a fabulous job, I thought. As an independent third-party viewer who didn't have a dog in the fight with either team, I thought they did a wonderful job. And I thought Tony, as usual, kind of he made you think about why are they doing this? And to your point of, I don't like kicking it deep, he said. We should squib it in there.
Yeah.
But you kind of got the sense, even with 13 seconds left, again, as a third-party observer, you're kind of looking at it saying, well, they could do this.
See, but I wasn't.
Bugger's got a huge leg.
I was not. I have two of my best friends are Bills fans. I sent them text messages, said congratulations. With 13 seconds to go, I thought it was over. I didn't think we had a chance.
As a Chiefs fan, you got to think it's over. It's done.
Over.
But as a third party, just no dog in the fight, you're looking at it going, ooh, okay, I can see how they could do this with a couple timeouts here. But as soon as they won the toss, you knew the ball game was over.
Bills were gassed, and
everybody was gassed.
That is, every show you watch has, how should we change the overtime? This always happens whenever a team wins in overtime on the first possession. But the bottom line is this: yes, 10 of 11 games in the playoffs, the team who won the toss won the game. But going back to when this rule was changed, it's only 53%, Ned. 53% of the teams who win the toss win the game. So it's not a foregone conclusion. It's just the playoff games are heightened. There's more attention on them. So people go, it's 10 out of 11. Not really. It's only 53% all time. So as much as it stinks, what option do you have? You can't play forever. It's football. You can't play forever. Right. So there has to be an ending at some point.
Same reason that they have a shootout in soccer is that they have to end it at some point. But I likened it to a playoff in golf where, everybody draws the number out of the hat. Whoever gets the first number goes first. They play the hole by themselves. If they make a birdie, they win. And the other two guys are still standing on the tee going, wait a minute.
That is a great analogy.
Get a chance to put a peg in the ground.
I know.
And just as a selfish fan of that game, I would have loved to have seen Josh Allen. You get the sense that had they won the coin flip, they would have won the game.
There's no question. But I would also argue there was a third down on the first drive the only drive in overtime, and they completed a pass to Travis Kelce. They stopped that third down. Now they're punting the ball. So there were opportunities. It's just both defenses were so gassed, they literally could not guard anybody. And in the NFL, with arguably the two best quarterbacks playing who were red hot and you're gassed, they're just too good to be stopped. That should be the argument, not that it's a foregone conclusion that any team is going to score. It's those teams that can score when they need to, and they showed that in the final 2 minutes.
And crazy 4 games. The Kansas City game that we've just dissected, of course, Tom Brady and the Bucs almost came back to take down the Rams. My Titans, we'll talk about that in a second, and then Green Bay coughing it up. I felt bad for the Titans, and then I watched the Green Bay game, and I felt even worse for them. But as a Titans fan, it was just a comedy of coaching errors and bad calls and bad decisions. And at one point in the game, Coach, my son and I went, we have tickets. And so one point in the game and midway through the third quarter, we're running the ball well.
Yeah.
When we have the second interception from Tannehill, we've just 4 runs, 66 yards. We're on the 10-yard line. We're getting ready to punch it in and crack this game. And we own it. We own the offensive line. We own the defensive line. We are smoking 9 sacks. We ended up having the game. And so they throw this interception that gets batted up. It was absolutely a horrible call. So about 4 minutes later, we get the ball back. And they actually, during a timeout in the stadium, they have one of those big video boards, right? And they play a song, and they have, I guess, probably 3 or 4 minutes worth of running clips of Derrick Henry just plowing over people, Foreman barreling people. And the song to the video is run, run, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Whoever's working the video screen is trying to tell the coaches, stop throwing the ball, run the stupid thing, to the point where there is a video being played, run the ball, run the ball. And every time we threw it, it seemed to be a near disaster. And in the end, you cannot make that throw if you're Ryan Tannehill.
It was about as bad of a decision as you can make. And Ryan Tannehill, his biggest fault is he locks in on a receiver, and that's who he's going to go to. Now, we saw several times in that
receiver or the third option.
Of course, but if that's where he wants to go, he's going to throw it no matter what, is my point. And in that case, it got batted up, and there was only 20 seconds left to go. All they needed was one completion to get down to the 30 or 35, and you win the game. It was just such
you got to go to
bad,
your studs.
You have to. And throughout the rest of the game, he was.
Where'd they go when they needed it? They went to Kelsey. They went to Hill.
That's exactly right. It's just I never felt like the Titans were a number 1 seed all year. I never felt like they had everything. And the Bengals, you never want to be on the side where you go, oh, history was made against you. Well, that's exactly what the Titans did. It's only the second time in NFL history that a quarterback has been sacked at least 8 times in a game and still won the game. Now, also,
it's horrible.
Every game this weekend, most people don't realize, all 4 games ended on the final play of the
How about
game.
that?
That's incredible.
That's crazy.
That's incredible.
The Titans now have 3 times since they've been in Tennessee, been the number 1 seed. They are 0-3, and they average 12 points in those 3
I don't know what happens during
good.
that week off, but it's not good, and they've got to fix that. And all the numbers skewed towards their head coach had great.
Yeah, we gave
records.
it to him.
Yeah,
we coughed it up.
Yeah, so it was. No question.
I won't say that Tannehill choked because I don't think that's necessarily fair. I think they put him in some bad play calls. He did make some bad throws.
Yes,
but I always say choking isn't missing a 5-footer to win the tournament or missing a field goal to win the game. It's when the entire moment gets the better of you and you play poorly the entire round, or you make bad decisions the entire game. And the Titans coaching staff continue to make bad decisions on the offensive side of the ball.
There's no question.
Ryan Tannehill, kind of the same.
Well,
So let's look ahead. Where are you throwing some money down? Because these next 2 games, the conference championship games, are pretty interesting.
They're fascinating. And I hate the fact that the Chiefs are playing the first game on Sunday. I think it would have been awesome to have the outdoor atmosphere in the evening, but we're going to have Rams indoors and Chiefs in the afternoon. But that's okay. Now, this first one, where we're leaning as a show at Sportsline and at the Early Edge, is in a teaser format. I talked about it a little bit last week, and all those teasers, if you would have played them, they would have hit, except for if you put Green Bay into a teaser. But if you use the 49ers, if you use the Bengals, if you use the Chiefs, any of those teams I told you last week right here on Breaking Even, you
did say
won.
that. Use the Bengals as a teaser against the Titans.
Exactly.
You did say that.
Exactly.
That is accurate.
Exactly. So this week, I would bring the Chiefs down in a teaser. You get 6 points in a 2-team teaser. And then I would take the 49ers up. The 49ers are getting 3.5. So you would get 9.5 in a teaser. You would get -1 for the Chiefs. So essentially all they need to do is win the game, and you win that side of the bet. That would be, I've already put that bet in myself, is the 49ers and the Chiefs in a teaser, because those are numbers that when you look at them, the 49ers own the Rams with McVay as the head coach. So they could win on the field. So you're going to give me a team that could win on the field, Ned, and I'm going to get 9.5 points. I'll take that every day.
All day?
Yeah, all day.
So it is interesting. I mean, as a Chiefs fan, I got to think that you would rather play the 49ers than the Rams.
It's funny because I have geniuses on my show every single day, and I have another resident Chiefs fan who says the exact same thing. Now, they would be a bigger favorite over the 49ers as opposed to the Rams. The Rams have a lot more firepower. Their defense was dynamic against Tom Brady.
Similar teams, right? It's like looking in the mirror.
Correct. I'll be honest with you. I would rather play the 49ers too, because they just can't score. You saw how much they struggled in Green Bay. The only reason Aaron Rodgers, to me, you have to do more than score 10 points. They scored a touchdown first quarter, did nothing else. So I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers. Really? He didn't score any more points against the 49ers. They scored on a blocked punt and then had one drive, kick a field goal. That's not going to beat the Chiefs in a Super Bowl. You're going to have to do what happened. They've already done this one time. You got to score 28 plus. We know that. I don't think the 49ers can score 28 against the Chiefs. So I would rather play the 49ers, no doubt, if we beat the Bengals.
Who's your money on right now to win the Super Bowl of the 4 remaining teams?
I got to go with the Chiefs. I have to bet on the best quarterback. I've learned, and I don't make this mistake anymore, Ned. You can't hope that a quarterback is going to play well. That's going to be your demise.
Not in the playoffs, especially.
No. You go with the guy that's been there. 4 straight AFC championships. This would be the 3rd trip to the Super Bowl. I got to go with the hot hand. I got to go with my guy, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and they had that run in the middle of the season where everybody thought they were done and they were cashed out. It's almost like they've now hit their stride and they're running full speed. And they're going to be a little tired, no doubt. This game would have taken a lot out of them. But unless Joe Burrow just gets crazy hot, Chiefs are going to walk all over, I think. Well, and then when you get to the Super Bowl, the Rams-Chiefs would be a fun game to watch. It would
be. And it's going to be in the Rams' home stadium. So they could play 2 home games back-to-back. And let's also remember, for those people who think the Bengals have the same chance as the Bills, Joe Burrow cannot run. He cannot move. He was second in the league in most times being sacked. It's going to be a different type of game. And if the Chiefs pressure him, I think that's going to be the key, because he cannot do this. He cannot move around. Josh Allen is dynamic with his legs and with his arms. That's why it was so hard to stop that offense.
The Titans in the regular season beat the Chiefs back-to-back. And it was Bills and Chiefs, those 2 quarterbacks. But I would give the nod at that point of the season, maybe not now, to Josh Allen. He is just phenomenal. Now, the thing I respect about Joe Burrow, he's not afraid to take a sack. He knows that, I took a sack. I'll get it back later. I'm not going to hit it out of bounds. I'm not going to throw a bad pass. I'm going to eat it, and then next down we'll get it, or next series we'll get it.
But he needs to know where he eats it. He cost himself 6 points this weekend because he took a sack when they were like in between the 30 and 35. You got to be smart. You got to learn how to throw it away too. You got to learn how to throw it away.
Let's talk some golf.
Yeah.
Last week, Hudson Swafford, he won for the 2nd time in his career out in the California desert.
Did you put any money on him? Plus 20,000?
No. Why would you? I happened to see a bunch of his golf the first 2 weeks, and he had some good stretches, but nothing that would have said to you, yes, that's my guy right there. That's a hidden gem.
$100 bucks, $20,000. Oh,
how about that?
How
about that? It was my guy Patrick Cantley looked like he was there for a minute and then kind of faded. It was interesting watching, this tournament, American Express Championship. There's so many young guys, right? So when they teed off on Sunday, people were texting me saying, "Who are these guys?" They didn't know half the people in the top 10. So I always find that interesting as a golf fan. I'd like to see how they handle the pressure. Some handled it well, some did not. Some will learn. Some you might not hear from again.
Yeah.
Right. And that's just kind of the nature of Sunday on the PGA Tour when you're trying to cut your teeth. But as we look ahead to a tournament that is storied and has a long history of big names winning at Torrey Pines here in the Farmers Insurance Open, this golf course played on 2 golf courses, right, this week, the North and the South course. The South course the famous one that has hosted United States Opens. This golf course has a way somehow of identifying world-class players who have won majors, players who are going to win majors, FedEx Cup, whatever. And so this may be not a week to go with too many outliers. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, last year we got to see this course twice, right? We saw it for the U.S. Open, Jon Rahm winning, and then, of course, at this event, Patrick Reed had so much controversy with his marking the ball and all that sort of thing, which kind of overshadowed the fact that he played incredible golf over the weekend and outclassed everybody.
I thought he got a bad rap for that deal, by the way.
Rory kind of did the same thing, essentially.
He didn't even call rules official over. He just did it.
Correct. That's my point. Patrick did everything the right way. It's just his reputation cost him in that scenario. So now this is, to me, kind of the unofficial start of the 2022 portion of the PGA Tour season, because you just pointed it out. Last week on Sunday, if you would have looked at that leaderboard, you'd have been like, is this the Korn Ferry Tour or is this the PGA Tour? So now this is where the big boys show up. This is where the big boys come to play. 6 of the top 10 in the world. Now, very few players have the luxury of waiting until now to make their PGA Tour season debut. Dustin Johnson does have that luxury. And
that was interesting.
The fact that he hasn't shown up at all, a little surprising, because he is way behind on points. But as we know, if you get one win, you're going to make it. That's automatically gets you into the FedEx Cup playoffs. Plus, so for him, he doesn't care. I wouldn't have waited till now. But when you look at all these bombers, and a couple of years ago, I got to watch with Tiger, Jason Day, and Dustin Johnson when they played together. And it was amazing because it's such a big ballpark. And you see the levels to games of different players that you don't normally see at a course where you can shoot a 26 or a 27 under par. So this particular tournament, you got to go straight to Bryson. You got to go straight to Tony Finau. You got to go to the big hitters, because now the North course is not the easy course anymore. They've bolstered that. They've changed it. So now it is difficult too. So we're not going to see 7 or 8 under on the North, and you come back and let's get 1 under on the South. They're both pretty difficult. So I'm going big game hunting this week. Do not bet on Jon Rahm to win. He's only plus 650. I don't care if you would win that bet. There's not enough value, and the other 155 players, Ned, they can beat him, and they can beat anybody who is plus 1,000 or below. I only bet plus 2,000 or higher if I'm going to bet on a winner, because otherwise there's no point in doing it. But if you're looking for head-to-head matchups, go with the big guys. Rahm, Cantley, Bryson, Finau, those type of guys.
Finau, absolutely. He's a guy on the short list. And you look at, it's really interesting when you look at players who have a series of top 10s in this event, and then they go on to win, or runner-up finishes and they go on to win. Look at Finau's record, the number of top 10s. He plays this course well. He is a guy who absolutely should be on your short list this week. And a guy who I was texting you about, he's won here twice before. And you talk about number of top 10s. And I was just circling all the top 10s he had in his bio, the Brandt Snedeker. And you look at how he's played. He played well in Hawaii at Wailea. He didn't play well on Sunday, but he had a chance. I think he was 11 under or something like that, and didn't play well on Sunday. Then you go to last week at the American Express, and he was playing well, didn't play great, but played better on Sunday. In this progression as a golfer, I can tell you, you can almost hear the train, the steam that he's picking up. If he's there, he's going to play well on Sunday. So at 10,000, plus 10,000, I'll put a little money on Sneddy.
It's worth a sprinkle, because we know on this course, what is the great equalizer at Torrey Pines? It is that rough. And if you are not driving it accurately, it's going to be a very, very long couple of days, because that's all you're going to have is a couple of days if you're hitting it into the rough. Sned's, even though he's not the longest, he's had some very memorable wins at this course. Who can forget a few years ago, was it the wind or was it the rain, where he finished really, really early, and all of a sudden the wind just
the trees were coming down and everything, right?
And he shot like 6 under or 7 under, and everybody else was shooting 78 and 79. It was one of the craziest things I've ever seen in golf, but he did it. So when you go back to a course where you're very familiar and you played well, I'm sure you can tell the people way better than I can. You just feel good. You feel comfortable. You feel at home, and that can certainly help your golf game, no doubt.
Well, you know where to miss it. And you know when the flag is here, I'm going to miss it here. And so this is the shot I'm going to hit. And he obviously has a good game plan. You put a good putter like Snedeker, a great putter, on Poana greens. I would argue that nobody puts Poana greens better than Brandt Snedeker, at least over the past decade.
Amazing.
And here's one for you as we part ways. They make so much about the fairways and how narrow they are in Wailea at the Sony Open. Okay, those fairways are roughly 34 yards wide, 30 to 34 yards wide. How about the South Course? 26 to 29 yards wide. So these fairways on a 7,700-yard golf course are narrower than they are out in Hawaii.
It's why you have to play guys that are hitting their irons great, that are driving it great. Really look at those numbers. Look at the strokes gained all the way from the tee to the green, not just on approach, because that will factor in the driving and the approach numbers, and you've got to have guys that are in good form here or you have no shot.
Coach, let's celebrate. Let's high-five the fact that you are firmly cemented now as our permanent contributor here on Breaking Even when it comes to gambling. Man, I'm so proud that you would even consider spending some time with us on a permanent basis every week.
Well, I'm excited. I mean, you guys have been very, very generous. And in the world of finance and sports, you got to have one show that brings all that together. And that's what Breaking Even is ultimately going to be. We're going to be the show where people come for sports advice, financial advice, and to have a good time too. So I'm excited to be a part of it and be your official now betting partner.
Well, to your point, if you haven't been watching the markets, they've been very volatile. They've been getting smoked around a little bit. But if you've been paying attention to Breaking Even the last month, you actually made money
there you go.
In this downturn.
There you go.
Coach is going to do the same thing for you when it comes to gambling. Coach, where all can we hear besides here on Breaking Even? Sportsline, where else can we get you?
We've got an incredible brand at Early Edge. All you got to do is go to Sportsline, follow us there on Twitter and or Instagram. Every single show we do is posted there. Follow our YouTube channel, subscribe. It's free. And then if you really want to take it next level, Sportsline is the best value in all of sports betting. It's only $10 a month, and you get access to some of the greatest cappers in the world, and you get all the guys that are on my show as well. We're there 7 days a week, 365 days a year. We never stop. The grind continues. So just do that, and you can't miss anything that we do.
He always brings it. That's the coach. Thanks, bud. See you next week.
You got it. See you.
Breaking Even is brought to you by Risk Reversal Media. You can find us at riskreversal.com and check out our podcast, On the Tape. Each week, Guy Adami, Danny Moses, and me, Dan Nathan, discuss the biggest market-moving headlines and chat with some of the most influential people on Wall Street, all in an effort to help our listeners make smarter investment decisions. So follow us On the Tape in your preferred podcast store.
It's been a roller coaster kind of week. One minute you think, yes, I have mastered it. And the next minute you think, I am so stupid. I thought I was getting better at it. And I think that was part of the problem. I think my overconfidence led me to experimentation where I didn't know what to do with Microsoft because you're hearing that could go up, it could go down, but it's going to move a lot. So I ended up buying a call and a put on Microsoft. And now they're both down. As thorny as it may be, I retain my crown as the worst options trader in the world with a trade that any of our guys are going to just roll their eyes at. But specifically, my man, Dan Nathan, he jumps on with us here on Breaking Even. Dan, first of all, how are we doing? How are you surviving this topsy-turvy market?
I'm doing okay. After such a great year in 2021 in the stock market, which really went unabated. We had a little volatility early in the year in the NASDAQ and high valuation names, which in hindsight was definitely a bit of a canary in the coal mine. What was going on early 2021, interest rates were going higher, inflation expectations were going higher, and investors moved out of high growth names. But it wasn't too long before they got right back on board. And then that was really, if you're going to look back and in hindsight say, what was the bubble in the stock market that burst, that caused this volatility early in 2022? And it really was about valuations relative to interest rate expectations and inflation expectations. And so the writing was kind of on the wall. If you listen to On the Tape, you've listened to Guy, Danny, and myself, and we talked about it with you, Ned, over the last few months on Breaking Even. We were really concerned about what we thought was a disconnect between investors just not caring about what valuations they're willing to pay for growth. The last straw for us over the last, let's call it 2 months, was really that there was such a small percentage of the stocks in the indices making up a disproportionate amount of the gain. So 7 stocks in the S&P 500 made up 30% of the weight of the index of 500, and they made up 50% of the weight of the NDX, the NASDAQ 100. But importantly, there were also a disproportionate amount of the performance over the last 6 months of the year. And something had to give. And that's what's happening right now in January.
I'll give you credit because you all have been saying that for months. And fortunately, I started listening to you. It only took me 4 or 5 months to actually believe in you guys. But I did. I made some put purchases and sold some different stocks and was able to navigate at least this first downturn pretty well. I was feeling good about myself, maybe a little too good about myself. I don't know how to do spreads yet. This is next step in my education of not a trader, but an options amateur. And so I bought a put and a call on Microsoft before they released their earnings. And now both of them are down.
Did you buy the same strike and the same expiration?
Probably. Let's see here. January 28th, 280 put and 300 call. And I'm sure I just did it on, well, that price is comfortable for me. And if it goes to zero, I'll just be pissed.
What you did right there is you bought a strangle. You made a bet on volatility. It had nothing to do with direction. By buying the put and buying the call, and they were both basically out of the money, let's just say you paid $5 for that. You would have needed the stock to either go below 275. The long put strike, 280, plus the $5 in premium that you paid. So 275. You need the stock 275 or lower to make money on the downside. And then you said you bought the 300 call. So then you would add that $5 in premium to the 300 strike. You would need the stock to go above 305 to make money on expiration. So you bought what's called a strangle. You didn't know you were buying it.
I strangled myself is all I've done here.
You strangled yourself. Listen, I would say this. That's a really tough strategy for newbies to the market here because you have to understand expectations. So yesterday, when the stock was trading 287 or something like that, the implied move in the options market was about $20 in either direction.
So that's what I was basing on, the 7%. It goes 7% one way or the other, I'm a winner. As long as it doesn't just hang out in this area, I'll do okay. And it's hanging out in that area.
And part of that, Ned, is that the implied move in the options market got jacked over the last few days as the volatility in the underlying stock moved around. So when we started the week, we were pricing up the implied move in Microsoft about 4.25%. And then because of the volatility Monday and Tuesday, that implied move went to 7%. Think about it from a betting parlance. Maybe we could use the coach here to talk about this a little bit. All of a sudden, the line moved. Everybody rushed into that. And then the game ends up settling back into that line where it started. It's like a sentiment sort of thing. And that's what happened to you right here.
Now I'm going to sit and wait. As we are recording this before the Fed and Powell's comments, I'm going to sit and wait and use it as a learning experience to kind of see what happens. Or should I just sell everything and pretend I'm learning?
Great question. Okay, so here's the deal. And I'd say this for a lot of traders, and especially when they're thinking about new products, really research it. Figure out what you're doing. There's plenty of resources out there now. Just go to Google and just say, how do I trade an options strangle? Try to find the most reputable person, and there'll be some good stuff out there. So now you want to trade out of this. You have a couple days to expiration. These things are going to go worthless really quickly. So there's really probably not a whole heck of a lot you can do at this moment. But if you thought that the stock is going to continue to go higher, it's up 4% right now, then maybe you try to salvage some premium from that long put that you have. But I assume that 280 put is basically near worthless at this point.
Yeah, it was at 5 and now it's at 1.
Yeah. Again, I just say this to people new to these sorts of strategies, sometimes trying it with one lots and just seeing how you feel when you're doing it and see how they react. But there's no two situations that are going to be alike, but at least you're going to learn and just try to lean a little bit more towards the side that you're convicted on. I think that makes sense, and define your risk either with a call if you're bullish or a put.
I learned by bumping into things. Reading is good, but for me, it's got to either hurt or feel really good. And that is how I learn.
So, Ned, you've ignored that mantra. I've been in the markets for 25 years, and people say, you got to take the emotion out of it. And you're just basically saying, I'm going into this trading game 100% emotion. If I'm not bumping into it and it's not hurting, or I'm not just getting a hole in one and being elated, I'm not doing it right.
Well, you all take the emotion out of it for me. I told you when we started the show, this was a selfish endeavor. I was going to benefit from your knowledge from an education standpoint, and hopefully all of our listeners are doing the same, not only from an education standpoint, but from a monetary standpoint. So I am living what the show was supposed to be. I do want to get your thoughts on what Powell is going to say. Obviously, you're not clairvoyant. You don't know what he's going to say. But How do we respond to if he comes out and he is hawkish or if he comes out and he is dovish? Talk me through a playbook on what we're supposed to do on both sides of that.
All right. So Fed Chair Powell finishing up his 2-day meeting here today on Wednesday, and they're going to give some sense about what they're meant to do over the next month and a half or so. There's not another meeting in February, and there's one in mid-March. So this is going to be really important to hear the signaling. So the full expectations are that in March, they will be done with their quantitative easing. They had been buying $120 billion worth of bonds to ease monetary policy. Okay. So if you're an investor in the stock market, that's been a really good situation with zero interest rates and the Fed just basically priming the pump, putting lots of liquidity. Well, they're ending that. They've already told us that. And that was one of the reasons why we've had some of this volatility of late. And now the question is, how quickly will they start to raise rates? There's been some people saying that they should raise by 50 basis points. Just to be clear, the Fed funds rate is basically at zero. It's between 0 and a quarter percentage point. So a lot of risk assets get revalued when rates move higher or lower. So when rates were going lower and there was a lot of easing, stock market valuations were going higher. And then when they're more hawkish and they're raising, stock market valuations should get depressed. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think they stay the course with what they've already indicated, that they're going to be done with the quantitative easing and that they're going to raise in March. I don't think expectations for faster raises are going to come in just yet because of the stock market volatility. And that might be something perceived by stock market investors as a good sign. If you're thinking about buying more stocks here or you're a little worried about the downdraft, I think that if they were to change their tune dramatically, stocks probably rally, and that means get more dovish. They lose credibility because they've already set us on this course. And then the question is, what are they seeing to change their tune? Because it can't just be the stock market. Are they seeing a big slowdown in the economy or in economies around the world? And that might also be the thing that causes investors to get nervous. So as Guy Adami would say, they've kind of painted themselves in a corner here. They kind of have to continue to go in the direction in which they've signaled. Otherwise, investors might get a little nervous.
I'm going to boil the question down. If they're hawkish, give me one move I should make. And if they're dovish, give me one move I should make.
If they're overly hawkish, if they basically say they're going to raise 50 basis points in March or they hint to that, stock market's going down. And if you were sitting on your hands waiting to think about, should I trim some of these really expensive stocks that I own and I've suffered some losses with, I think you probably want to move your feet and do that thing that you meant to do a couple weeks ago, because then I think we go into a situation where all the technicals as far as the major equity indices are out the door. And if we go through the lows from earlier this week in the S&P or the NASDAQ, it's going to take a very, very long time to get back to those highs. So if they signal they're going to be much more aggressive, hawkish, I think you want to lighten up some of your high valuation tech. And on the flip side, if they change their tune and they do an about face, which is what they did in December of 2018, the stock market went down nearly 20% in 2.5 months on a combination of a growth scare around the world, but also the Fed had been raising interest rates for a couple years, not aggressively, but they had been doing it. And the stock market said, and they revalued stocks, went down 20%. Fed Chair Powell, he got a lot more dovish. And they basically said they're going to cool it out on the hiking and that sort of thing. And the stock market took off. What's different now, Ned, is that the Fed has already indicated a certain course, and they said that they want to battle inflation, which means they're less worried about stock market palpitations. And to me, I think they're damned if they do, damned if they don't. I think we're going to be in a rocky period for a few months. If you're a trader, learn how to trade options correctly, because it could be a good market to trade in. If you're a long-term investor, I think you want to start thinking about stocks that you think are going to be winners for the next few years, but also 10 years out. And you want to start layering in or dollar cost averaging into those names, because nobody wants to enter a position at a full position, because no one knows when that appropriate time is to do that. And you got to leave some powder dry.
We talked at some point about Amazon. We were buying puts on the XLK. We were waiting for the right time for Amazon to go down enough where we say, okay, now we can get back into Amazon. It's 2,800-ish, down almost 100 points from where it started today. Today is Wednesday. Is now a time to get into Amazon?
I would say this, again, this goes back to the point I just made. If you think Amazon is going to continue to be a long-term winner, then if you don't own Amazon and you were disappointed when the stock was trading at 3,600 on a couple occasions over the last year or so, and now it's 2,800, then you start buying in. One of the things I'll just say is I use Fidelity, and I actually have a few accounts, SoFi. you can buy fractional positions right now. You don't have to buy a full share or a round lot. If you say, I want to buy $1,000 worth of Amazon, then you can go to your broker dealer and you can buy $1,000 worth of Amazon. And then if it goes to $2,750 from $2,850, then you buy another 1,000. So you think about, what is my full position going to be? And I think that's a really, really important lesson for investors who want to trade single names or want to invest in single names. You're never going to be able to pick the bottom. So if you're interested in Amazon like I am, and I think it's going to be making new highs, let's say some point in the next year or two, then from 3,700 down to 2,800, I want to start dollar cost averaging it. That doesn't only mean when it goes lower. If I buy 1,000 here, maybe it goes back to 3,000, maybe I buy another $1,000 worth there, but then it goes back to 2,600. You just think about, what is my full position and what percentage will I want that full position to be of my stock portfolio? Those are really important points to think about when you're looking to buy something that's in a downturn like this.
Dan, Nathan, thank you, man. Appreciate all of your advice over the time that we've been doing Breaking Even, but especially over the past couple of months, because it has been a tumultuous time in the market. And if people have been paying attention here on Breaking Even, they've actually been able to make some money. We'll talk to you next week.
My pleasure, man. I'll see you next week.
All right, so that's it for Breaking Even. We'll see you next week.